Constitution places a duty on the President to refer a bill back to the National Assembly for reconsiderations if the President has reservations about the constitutionality of specific sections of the bill. Last week, the President referred this back to Parliament. Now, this was the very controversial the Protection of State Information Bill. For analysis on this, Dale McKinley from the Right to Know campaign is in studio with me to talk a little bit more about this. Good to have you. Welcome, Dale.
Thanks. Good to be here.
So I was saying that we think you should be celebrating, but you just quickly stopped me and said, whoa, Leanne, not yet. This is a little too early.
It's a little bit early. First of all, let us say we welcome the development. I think everybody should welcome the development. It's a positive sign that at least the President and his advisors have applied their mind partially to this bill and said, look, it's not going to pass, and sent it back. We've been calling for this all along. But there are serious questions around why he's done this, because the two sections, as mentioned, that have been referred, one, our legal advisors tell us, is purely potentially a technical issue and has nothing to do with content to change. And the other one deals specifically with criminalization of wrongful classification, in other words, officials and government officials. And our question would be, well, why do you want to change that particular clause? Because that's a good one in relation to those who would wrongfully try to hide information from the public and wrongfully classify it. So there's serious questions that remain about what the intent and what specific unconstitutional issues the President's talking about. Yeah.
So the issues and the points and the clauses that you've been fighting for were not even mentioned.
No, unfortunately, as most people know, the public interest defense, which we said from the beginning, is not addressed. The issue of the powers that are given to the Minister of State Security are not addressed. The issue of an independent classification review panel, not addressed. There are a range of different other issues that we have raised as we believe that are unconstitutional. These are not specifically mentioned in the President's letter, but there is an opening door there where he says these ones in particular, which means maybe there are others that are there that are up for discussion.
Okay, so I mean, it isn't necessarily that it's just going back because of those 2 points. There are more, and those ones that you have been talking about very well may be a part of it.
They may be a part of it, and we just don't know whether Parliament's going to have the courage to pick up those ones and not simply confine themselves just to the two that the President has mentioned.
Why now? You know, what do you think sort of led the President to make this statement now? We've been fighting it for so long. It's been sitting on his desk for, 6 months or so. Why make this statement now?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, one can look at the upcoming elections and say, okay, politics has possibly played a role, because this it's not going to look good for the ruling party. It's a clearly unpopular bill. It's clearly divided a lot of opinion. So I think that's a consideration. But what I'd like to think, and we would like to think, that as a result of the pressure, as a result of the fact that his law advisors have woken up and smelled the coffee, so to speak, have said, look, this is not simply going to pass. And the President listened to that and referred it back. But it's still too early to say what the real intentions are.
What do you think the delay in all of this means for South Africans? I mean, such a sort of controversial bill. It's taking so much time, back and forth, back and forth. What does it mean for South Africans?
I think it's a good thing. I think we shouldn't look at it and say, look, oh my goodness, we have to have a bill now. This is so important. These constitutional rights of ours are so important that I think it behooves us to take the time to do this properly. And this is what we've been saying all along. The reason why we got into this situation was because the State Security Agency and the ANC unfortunately tried to ram this bill through, and it didn't work. And now I think hopefully the lessons have been learned that when public is involved and when we have the difference of opinion, we can have a decent piece of legislation, and we can do so even if it takes a little bit more time. It's worth it. Good.
Okay, so this is good news for the public out there. I just want to very quickly re-look at the sections that the President highlighted, Section 42 and Section 45 of the bill. Although he did stay, as you have said as well, they want to review the bill in its entirety. But let's look at 42 and 45 in detail. What do they say?
Well, the first 42 basically says that it's a clause that would criminalize the possession or distribution of classified information, right? Now, this is a general clause that we've said is problematic without a public interest defense, clearly. But there's nothing in the specifics that President Zuma said into Parliament that he said, what's wrong with that clause? When he was asked by the media to follow up and tell them exactly what problem he had, he declined to comment. We've seen his letter to Parliament. There's no extra explanation for this. So we're not sure what he finds unconstitutional or what his lawyers find unconstitutional, but we do know that they're in that Section 42, there's a reference to another part of the bill which is supposedly technically incorrect. That might be the case.
Okay.
So it's up in the air. We have no idea.
No
really.
idea. Quickly, 45, that section.
45 is the one about wrongfully classifying information by officials and government
All
officials.
right.
And this is the potentially worrisome one.
Yeah.
We have it in Conla, we have a range of different things where maybe people weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing and classifying and hiding that information. That, we would say, should be criminalized. Now, if you're going to review that, we wonder on what basis is the review going to take place.
All right. How much longer? Where to now?
Well, it would. I doubt that this is going to be finished in the present Parliament. It would probably go into next year. It would be seriously doubtful whether it would come before the election. So we're looking at several months, I would imagine. But we're saying, let's take our time, let's do it right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, rather do it right than rush into something. Thank you, Dale. Thank you very,
Sure.
very much. I know we'll be seeing you soon again. Dale McKinley from The Right to Know, talking about the Protection of State Information Bill that has now been gone back to the National Assembly for reconsideration on certain points. All right.